What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about it. Jay Prince, man. Seeing is believing. And when people can see it, then they can believe it. And over again, we've countlessly seen this man violated by the federal government. So I'm glad everybody saw the Joe Budden video and liked it as much as you did, because we didn't really promote that while the stream was live. A lot of people were caught up in the Kwame's live and didn't get a chance to see it. I hope you see this one, because this one's equally more important, I think, than any video I've done in the past week. The importance of learning what he's about to say.
Seeing is believing. I just had to share one example of many of the criminal lies that's told on my name on a daily basis. Clearly, this is a drug deal taking place on text message, with my name being used to seal a deal that I have no knowledge of or involvement in no capacity. These type of made-up scenarios and lies are the type of excuses the feds uses to constantly harass me and try to incriminate me by the use of another person's action. Because when they arrest them, they rely on you. Let me say something to you clowns, who in my opinion lie on my name and who are trying to set me up. In my opinion, some of y'all are doing things out of ignorance, and others like Darrell D-Town Lewis, Ronald Bookman, and Sylvester Brown are, in my opinion, snitching, trying to get themselves ahead in life or out of trouble. There's a movement by some rogue FBI agents and federal prosecutors that have a hate Jay Prince racism disease. So once again, just like the rogue DEA agents I wrote about in my book, The Art and Science of Respect, that recently got arrested in Louisiana, no one believed me in Texas or did anything about them until over a decade later. It took Congresswoman Maxine Waters and the late great Janet Reno to put a spotlight on the rogue DEA agents' actions. These fearless women were criticized by politicians because they recognized the injustice being done and intervened before anyone else was smart enough to even realize they were dealing with crooked agents. To this day, no one wants to accredit these women for their forward movement, but I do, because their involvement possibly saved my life. It took prosecutors in Louisiana to catch them, thanks to Prosecutor Tad Duray for doing a great job on convicting Chad Scott. He ruined a lot of people's lives in Texas, along with his partner in crime, Jack Schumacher, who killed so many people that he admittedly lost count when he was asked under oath how many had he killed. I know this sounds like a movie, but this shit is real, because I have been getting harassed all of my life by racist, hateful cops and agents. I've had drugs planted on me on 2 different occasions by dirty cops and had to beat those cases in court. I've had crooked hitmen, DEA agents, I believe were assigned to me to take my freedom and my life. I've been extensively audited and harassed by the IRS on several occasions with no penalties. And now it's the FBI falling in line with those dirty criminal tactics. So to all who have ears, hear this. I don't knock no man's hustle, but don't put my name in none of that law-breaking shit. I have enough problems on my own. If you look past the color of my skin, I'm what you call a law-abiding citizen. Yet, I pay millions in taxes for them to treat me like shit. Stay tuned. My goal is to teach and show the present and the future generations how the alphabets may change. DEA, FBI, HPD, IRS, but their goals and tricks stay the same, to ultimately destroy us. It's me today and you tomorrow. To be continued.
Now, on the Casino for Life Twitter page, you see I got Jay Prince. It used to be me, Sam Watson, and Marcus Watson. And I've had that one photo up for years. And I've never really changed it in like forever until I took the picture with Jay Prince. Because before, me and Jay was in the same place, we never got a chance to get a photo with each other. Or we was never, like, he was either working, I was working. So, to be able to come together for something positive and actually talk, because we share the same thoughts. As people know, me and Jay Prince go back and to a lot of, we're connected in two different ways. Now, I knew him from two sides. The music side with the Ghetto Boys, when the Ghetto Boys was first coming out. We knew him that way. Here in Chicago, the Ghetto Boys was, synonymous here. And definitely synonymous with a lot of political leaders here. That was about growth and development. Now, the second way I know him is through Floyd Mayweather. He ended up taking over management for Floyd, and no longer was Floyd Sr. going to be the advisor for Floyd. Jay Prince was. And that was a hard transition because Big Floyd was, the one that normally dominated Floyd's career as far as management and where he wanted to see Floyd go. But when Roger took over, things started and Floyd started to become his own man. He had to make those type of decisions. Now, other people would say, why would Jay Prince even be involved in something like that? Because he's not involved in something like that. It's what they was trying to do, the federal government. They do this all the time. They tried to group me into something that I hadn't done. Because if you tweet, Twitter is nothing but the government, ladies and gentlemen. If you make a tweet, they can screw up your whole life. I made a tweet to Donald Trump one time, just saying, like, come on now, like, just saying, like, it's a double standard. He immediately went totally negative, and I had the government on my account. People don't even know that. It's only a few people that know that. I got a letter in the mail. I didn't make an attack on him because I don't do that. I don't curse people out on Twitter and do all that silliness. But he was overreacting like a child. And I had to learn, don't tag or at Donald Trump. Because the next thing you know, I got IRS letters showing up here. I had all kind of stuff going on. That was just like out of the blue. And it was totally unnecessary. They ended up finding out that they owed me money. I had a credit. And the taxes that I did have due, it wasn't time to pay them yet. I'm like, what are they sending me this for now? So they can get you in a lot of different ways. Then they tried to entrap me in some type of, I don't know what they're trying to do. They had a criminal call me, trying to establish a link between me and another criminal. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like a guy who's a criminal, who don't even have my number no more. I'm like, how would he even get my number? And trying to entrap me in some type of mess. And I'm like, dude, I don't think you're talking to the right person. Because I'm like, dude, who is this guy? Yo, man, I'm like, oh, this is a troll conversation. So I hung up. They called back, and the number came back with only 2 numbers on it. 2 numbers that showed up. So that could tell you they was calling from some type of Fed phone, some type of government phone. Now, why would somebody who's calling, who got the power to only have 2 digits show up on the phone? Then when it's answered, it's just weird connections. And the whole thing just seemed weird. And I'm like, I'm not involved in this, and they know I'm not. Believe me, they've probed anything that they could do to try to see how is he getting money, how is he getting his finances, how can we screw this up, what can we do to him? And I'm not somebody who was really on Trump back like that. But then on One Crack News, when I was going in on him because of it, the government didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. They came down heavy-handed. That's why most of that stuff had to go on One Crack News. So I know what Jay Prince is talking about. See, they not comfortable with a black man owning 2 islands, and he's quiet and making his money. He's not doing anything to ruffle any feathers, but what he was doing was waking up men who are in these streets, these young boys, getting them to say, hey, put them guns down, go to the polls. Let's vote these guys out of office. They didn't like he was spreading that message and he was getting that kind of power. The federal government couldn't have that. They want you to stay deaf, dumb, and blind to everything that they're doing out here. And entrapping black men is the main goal, and that's the agenda of all of them. How can they keep you entrapped and keep you down? So what Jay Prince said was 100%. And if you just got here, don't worry. You can go back to the beginning of this video and get caught up with everything Jay Prince said, because it was on the money. On the money, 100%. Here's another reason they're upset.
He's eligible for release today under the First Step and Fair Sentencing Acts that rendered the drug laws he was sentenced to life for as racist and unconstitutional. The average person ages out of criminal activity while incarcerated when they turn 60. Larry is 70. He's completed thousands of hours of educational courses that show his rehabilitation. He's been in isolation for 25 years of 6 life sentences for a non-violent drug offense. He has clean conduct while in federal prison. He's maintained all of his good time credit in a prison that scrutinizes his every move. He's suffering from several chronic medical conditions. 6 out of the 9 people he was indicted with have been released by the First Step Act.
Now, as you can see, they look at Larry and say, that's not a political prisoner, that's a criminal. Right? And because they look at him, the government feels as if, even though they broke the law and illegally tapped this man's and bugged this man's card and information coming through. That's how they got information. Illegally bugged this man. That's what the government did. Our government. Now, many people see the world in different phases. They see the world as this big bubble is so massive and all this opportunity. These opportunities weren't there for a lot of these gentlemen at that time, as they was going up against a system that really hated their guts, because no one wanted to see these men make money doing the things that they were doing, trying to survive in the world. Just trying to make a living and provide for their families. So some took shortcuts back in those days. For what he's locked up for, he should have been released. But releasing him is almost like admitting they lost. Even though this is a 70-year-old man who's not a threat to any of them, they knew that 20 years ago. They don't like the fact he was preaching to young black men that they should vote. They should be political, more involved. And they feel he has so much influence over a lot of young people and masses that the same things, that same crimes that they let people that look like them off for, they seem to not have that same compassion of energy for anyone else. That compassion of energy seems to be only stored for them, but for no one else. Where's the fairness? Where's the parity in that? All of a sudden, you're faced with all of these different issues to hold you up. And don't forget to like the video too. Subscribe to the page if you're new here. So this is why the federal government's on Jay. Mr. Prince got to go through it because of what he's trying to do. They hate that he's legitimate. They hate that he's a businessman. That hate that his sons are involved in business and they're not out here committing crimes in the streets. See, we've done that thing. We gotta go to the next thing now. The next phase is being able to provide for others. Where it's a going cycle that people's families don't have to follow a trend where they gotta grind to get out. You got all these crooked officers getting all these pension jobs. They get firemen's jobs and they never have to put out a fire. They might fight one fire or one blaze at a time, you know? I'm like, man, they ain't even have to fight a fire. And they got pensions. They got all kind of things going on. Health insurance, life insurance. You can't get the job. It says something about this country. but it's gonna start to change real soon.